Welcome back to another video. We are 9 and 4 more. We talk Jags news and other news around the NFL. And today, another video to discuss free agency. We're going to be going over the NFC East and going over each team and kind of like give our thoughts of how they did by giving them a team grade. So, Brandon, why don't you start things off with the Cowboys?
Yeah, so the Cowboys started off free agency on their side, re-signing Michael Gallup to a 5-year, $57.5 million deal with $23 million guaranteed. It can hit up to 62.5. I think that's a pretty good signing for Michael Gallup. I believe he was one of those that tore his ACL. I don't remember if it was ACL or Achilles. But I kicked him out for the rest of the year, but still solid wide receiver. He is only going to be like 26 years old. You pair him with CeeDee Lamb, they're going to do just fine. One of the reasons why they moved on from Amari Cooper is that they re-signed Michael Gallup. And Gallup and Lamb should be just fine. They'll probably find another wide receiver. They got James Washington from the Steelers on a 1-year deal. He's probably going to be their third guy. So they added some depth there. They restructured DeMarcus Lawrence's contract to free up some money. They did the same thing with their guard with Martin and Dak Prescott. They signed Dante Fowler and Leighton Vander Esch as their linebacking core, which is, I think, fine. They got Micah Parsons. That's really all you need for the Dallas Cowboys. So just having him there, adding some guys to the backup, and then really not too much Malik Hooker there too. So the Cowboys made some moves. I wouldn't say they made a ton of moves that really like stand out to me. I think they just signed the guys they kept to keep their team well, and they didn't really do much else. They were on the bad side of the Randy Gregory situation where he basically said they tried to mess with his deal after they already agreed to terms and kind of looking bad for them. So I think overall, I'll give them a solid B. Just the fact that they got out of the whole bad cap situation and able to sign the guys that on their team that are really good. But it maybe could have been a B plus if they were to keep Randy Gregory, but they fumbled that ball for sure.
Yeah, I give them a solid B as well. They had a good backup option with Randy Gregory deciding to go to the Broncos, and that was bringing Dante Fowler for a 1-year deal. Dante Fowler, I think he's just kind of like a good rotational guy. No one's going to, get you 10 plus sacks. I mean, I think he had the double-digit sacks once with the Rams. Other than that, when he was with the Jags, he was always like, a 7-8 sack guy. With Falcons, probably, I think he's like 6-7 sacks. So he's not like a game changer, but I think he's a solid pass rusher. And since obviously you needed someone else besides Parsons, I think he fits that role pretty well. Obviously, they, like you talked about, re-signing Michael Gallup. I think he's a good number 2 with CeeDee Lamb. Bringing James Washington from the Steelers, who showed signs of promise, just never got a lot of playing time, with Juju over there and Johnson and Claypool. So he actually gets a, better opportunity and he gets to go home to his home state of Texas. I think that's exactly where he's from, if I'm not mistaken, is Texas. So it's kind of like a home reunion a little bit. So overall, I think the Cowboys did a good job. That's why I'm going to give them a solid B. And I probably would have given them B plus, like you kind of said, if they were able to keep Randy Gregory, or if they were able to sign another safety besides Malik Hooker, because if there is one weakness on the Cowboys defense, it's probably the safety position.
Yeah, and from what I understand too, they're still in contacts with Za'Darius Smith. Apparently they're pursuing him to kind of fill that role for pass rusher. If they get him, that's even better defense, and Dan Quinn's can like move around with, and their defense actually becomes one of their strong suits, which for a lot of years was not. So if they're able to land Darius Smith with Fowler and Dexter Lawrence, that fixed the whole thing of losing Randy Gregory. That's not even an issue.
Yeah, and there are some reports, I don't know how true they are, but apparently the Cowboys and Tyrann Mathieu, they have mutual interests. So that would actually be a deadly combo, adding the Honey Badger in a backfield there.
Could be where their defense could actually be better than their offense for once. And that hasn't happened in a very long time for the Cowboys.
No, absolutely. Next up, we have their New York Giants. I honestly don't really like a lot what they did. The one thing I do like about the Giants, it doesn't have to do nothing with free agency. I thought they put together a good coaching staff. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, when you look at free agency, they bring in a backup running back, Matt Breida, who's kind of, been around the league a little bit now, 49ers, I think is with the Dolphins, then Bills, if I'm not mistaken. Then you sign Jahid Ward, who Jags fans obviously know from last year. He's just kind of a guy, 1 to 2 sack guy, but he's a very funny locker room dude. I mean, if you ever watch his Instagram live, he's always roasting people. So he does bring a good morale to the team. So I guess that's a positive. And plus, their defensive coordinator was obviously with him when he was up in Baltimore, when he actually played somewhat decent. I guess the biggest signing would probably be Tyrod Taylor as their backup quarterback. And for 2 years, 11 million. Tyrod's, I say, a decent backup, and I wouldn't be surprised, depending on how Daniel Jones plays, if Tyrod gets some playing time towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I would assume that he probably would. Daniel Jones has not necessarily thrived in any of the situations he has been in. There's a whole thing that they're trying to trade a lot of their players away now, including one is Barkley. So they're trying to get picks for him. I think Bradbury, their corner, they're trying to get rid of too. So Giants probably not going to be in a good situation this year. And I think maybe that's why they didn't go all into free agency, is that they didn't kind of want to waste everything that's going to happen. They got 2 high-end first-round picks. I did like what they did with signing 2 guards, 2 very good guards. I believe John Feliciano was from the Bills, and then Mark Galowski was with the Colts. 2 solid guys. If Andrew Thomas, who started actually playing somewhat decent last year, can step up, and then they actually get one of their, like, a good tackle, like with pick number, I think they have pick number 5 and 7. So in one of those, they get like Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu, or Charles Cross, and maybe they can actually build their offensive line, because that's been their Achilles heel for the last couple of years. So they're making progress to building their offensive line, but yeah, this is not a game-changing class at all. This is more of like, let's just fill in the holes and just try to win 2 or 3 games. So I guess I would give it like maybe a C+ kind of.
I'm going to give them a C-. I forgot to give their grade, but I'm going to give them a C-. I thought they should have done a better job on the offensive line. I'm fine with them not spending money on defense because their defense last year was actually pretty good. I don't think a lot of people talk about their defense actually somewhat produced and kind of put them in some of the games. Their offense was just atrocious. But I'm going to give them a C-. It looks like you're giving them a C+.
Yeah, it's only the C+ just because I feel like, why go in all this year?
No, yeah.
Honestly, they're going to be tanking. So if they went in and like kind of did what the Texans did, where like they just hired a bunch of people for no reason, even though they're like mid-level guys, like, why are you going to do that? If you're going to hit some all-stars, do that. Why sign 10 guys who are not even going to change here, and then you owe more money to? So if you're going to tank.
No, yeah, I understand that. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. I like some of the moves the Eagles did. Obviously, Hassan Reddick, who's had 7 sacks the past 2 years for the Cardinals and as well as the Panthers. For 3 years, $45 million, $30 million fully guaranteed. So a lot of it is front loaded. He's coming back home. He grew up in Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. So I think that's a home run signing. Someone that can come off the edge, does very well in a 3-4, can also play in a 4-3. So he's very versatile. Obviously they released Fletcher Cox, but did bring him back to a 1-year, $14 million deal. It seemed like that was a plan all along. Mm-hmm. Bringing Jason Kelsey for one more, I guess you can say, year. It's a 1-year, $14 million deal, but I assume this could be his last year with the Eagles if I had to put money on it. But overall, I would say they did a good B+. The one thing I kind of wish they would do is they kind of bring on that X receiver for the Eagles. They do have Smith, but I feel like they need another go-getter 50-50 type of ball guy.
Yeah, I think they were in the runnings for Allen Robinson for a while. That was one of the places that he was getting linked to. Obviously, he ended up signing with the Rams, but I like the signing of Greg Ward and Zach Pascal. I think they're solid depth guys, and I think this draft has a lot of X receivers in it. And the Eagles got 3 first-round picks, so odds are they're probably going to draft, my opinion, probably like a guy like Treylon Burks, Drake London, Chris Olave is probably going to be one of their 3 picks. And so I think maybe they were basing it off that and the fact of they like those X receivers. So they decided, let's get some quality depth guys, because definitely at receiver, the Eagles were not deep at all. JJ Whiteside, Jalen Reagor, not very good. They were playing basically Smith and Goddard the whole time, and then Watkins every now and then. So, but I like the fact that Kelsey and Cox get to come back for 1 more year. They both might retire at the end of the next year. They're both getting up there in age. They both accomplished a lot, especially Kelsey's definitely going to retire. I don't see him playing for another team.
I can see Cox going to another team for a year or 2.
I could see him maybe going to play with Andy Reid again.
Yeah.
The Chiefs try to win another Super Bowl there. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles sign like Devontae Wyatt from Georgia to fill in his role and not necessarily have to play this year, and then can just go in next year and have him and Hargraves just be the Cox and Hargraves this year. I'm worried about the Hassan Reddick signing just because Reddick is a better pass rusher than anything else. And he's been standing up for Carolina when he has been doing good, and with Arizona. So Eagles primarily play 4-3. That's usually you don't get blitzing linebackers in a 4-3, especially now with everything being nickel. So that's my only worry is Hassan Reddick, is that if they use him for more of a linebacker and not necessarily a pass rusher, that's where we're going to have some issues. So I hope that they can work it out and that he's more of a blitzing linebacker than anything.
Or just switch its position to a straight edge. So that's fine as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he can play with his hand in the ground. I haven't seen that much about him. Everything I've seen is him standing up. So we'll see if they believe he can put his hand in the ground, then he'll work out just fine with Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham as filling in. So we'll see how it goes. Overall, I would probably give it a solid. I think a B plus, just because Kelsey, Cox, and then you try to get some home run guys, and I think they're setting themselves up with 3 first-round picks in the draft. So they had added an Allen Robinson or something, I think I would have given it an A. But I'm also probably doing a little bit of a homer bias since I do also follow the Eagles quite frequently. So I think I would give them a solid B to B plus.
All right. So going on to the final team in the NFC East, and that is the Washington Commanders. Obviously, the big one was they did trade Carson Wentz, trade for Carson Wentz. I believe what they give up. They give up a 7th-round pick, a 3rd rounder, another 3rd rounder, and a swap second. So they didn't give up too much. At least they didn't have to give up a 1st-round pick. It's going to be interesting to see Carson Wentz back in the NFC East with a division rival against the Eagles. But overall, I'm not the biggest fan of Washington. One of these signings I do like is actually Andrew Norwell. They did 2 years, $10 million. So only $5 million a year. It's actually not bad. He played pretty well for the Jaguars for the most part. He had a few games where he was kind of inconsistent, but overall I thought he was a very solid left guard, and I think he's gonna succeed pretty well with the Commanders, especially for 2 years, $10 million. I think that's great value for Washington, and I also do like them bringing back Bobby McCain, who I thought actually played pretty well as a defensive back for them.
Yeah, this is okay. I feel like Carson Wentz is an upgrade of Tyler Heineke. And he at least played pretty decent for them. You got Curtis Samuel's probably going to finally be healthy. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Then you have Scary Terry out there. And then Logan Thomas should be coming back from injury as well too. So their offensive weapons are not looking bad. JD McKissick and Antonio Gibson's honestly one of the best 1-2 running back combos in the league. So the fact that they added Andrew Norwell for cheap, Tyler Larson, who's just a veteran kind of guy. I feel like it's an okay situation that they
give them a solid B. That's all
I might give it a B minus. They got rid of Landon Collins. They've had nothing to put into it for safety. Their linebacking core is still not great. Yeah, their defensive front is really good, but they kind of underachieved last year pretty steadily. It wasn't like, they Chase. I get Chase Young was hurt, but everybody on that defensive line underplayed. Mark Sweat. Who else do they got on there? They're 2 defensive. They got 5 first-round picks on that D line. Yeah, and they weren't that great. So if those guys step up, it can maybe work. But the fact is, they didn't spend that much either. And the way it's looking like, with the Giants not being good, Washington not being good, this is basically going to be controlled by Dallas and the Eagles. And I think they kind of know it. I think Washington went on Carson Wentz just because they felt like they had to, and they got pretty good value for him. So overall, that's not a bad trade. But I just don't see any real big playmakers on this team that's going to make a difference. And I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league again. So with that, I think I got to give them maybe just a C plus, just because I do like McKissick and Carson Wentz, and then kind of get into value for Norwell. So they could have done worse, but I'm not seeing a lot of promise on this team.
Yeah, I agree. Seems like overall it's probably between either the Cowboys or the Eagles of who won the free agency in the the NFC East. It's going to be an interesting year. It seems like it's going to be definitely between the Cowboys and the Eagles of who wins the division. It's a very easy NFC this year, I'll tell you that. But other than that, thank you all for watching. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at 904 more, and go Jags.